heart shaped like it just said to thine own self be true. And I shivered as I watched a roach crawl across the toe of my high-heel shoe.
In the realm of country music, Reba McEntire's band wasn't just a collection of talented musicians, they were a tight-knit family, spreading their passion for music to fans everywhere. Following a stellar private performance in San Diego on March 16, 1991, the night took an unexpected turn. Join us in this episode as we uncover truth behind the night that changed Rebe McEntire's life. Why this happened. Reba McEntire was born on March 28, 1955 in McAlester, Oklahoma, and grew up on a ranch where music played a central role in her life. Her mother, who had once dreamed of becoming a country singer, encouraged her children to sing, teaching them to harmonize together on car trips. Reba's love for performing developed early, and by high school she was performing regularly with her siblings as part of a family trio known as the Singing McEntires. The group became well known in local circles, bringing their blend of family harmony to audiences across the area. In 1971, the trio recorded and released The Ballad of John McEntire, a tribute to their grandfather, which marked a significant step in their musical journey. The song's success led them to form a full band, and they began performing at bars and dance halls around Oklahoma City, playing energetic shows that often lasted until dawn. Reba later fondly remembered these lively days of youthful ambition and endless performances. However, the trio dissolved when Reba's brother graduated from high school in 1973, leaving Reba to consider her future as a solo artist. After finishing college with a major in elementary education and a minor in music, Reba got some career-changing advice from her father, who urged her to sing the Star-Spangled Banner at the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City in 1974. There, her powerful voice caught the attention of country artist Red Steagall, who became interested in helping Reba secure a recording contract. In 1975, with Red's guidance and her mother's support, Reba traveled to Nashville, where she recorded a demo that soon landed her a contract with Polygram Mercury Records, launching her into the country music industry. Reba released her debut single, I Don't Want to Be a One-Night Stand, in 1976, though it only achieved modest success. Over the following years, she continued releasing albums, experimenting with styles, and refining her artistry. In 1984, Reba's determination paid off with her album My Kind of Country, featuring hits like Somebody Should Leave and How Blue, which brought her mainstream success and earned her the title of Female Vocalist of the Year. By the late 1980s, Reba's career was thriving, with 15 studio albums to her name, 8 of them certified gold, and even a role in the 1990 film Tremors, solidifying her place as a beloved star in both music and entertainment. As Reba's music career soared, her schedule grew more demanding, with back-to-back concerts in different cities. To keep up, she and her band began flying to their shows in private planes, cutting down on the long bus rides. On March 16, 1991, Reba and her band performed in San Diego, delivering another powerful performance to a thrilled audience. The concert ended with Reba singing her signature a cappella rendition of Patsy Cline's Sweet Dreams, leaving the audience captivated. Meanwhile, her band members prepared to pack up quickly, as they often did, to catch a flight to their next show. Before the concert, Reba's road manager, Jim Hammond, had briefed Reba and her then-husband, Narvel Blackstock, about a scheduling issue. With the performance likely to run past 10 p.m., they faced the risk of missing Lindbergh Field's strict 11 p.m. noise curfew. To solve this, Jim suggested a last-minute switch to Brownfield, a private airport nearby that had no such restrictions, allowing the band to take off at their convenience. This gave everyone peace of mind, enabling them to focus fully on the performance without the worry of a tight curfew. After the show, 2 planes were waiting at Brownfield to transport the band to their next stop in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Reba, however, was battling bronchitis, so she and Narvel decided to stay in California for an extra night. As they said their goodbyes, the rest of the band headed to Brownfield. The first plane, a Hawker Siddeley DH-125, was piloted by someone unfamiliar with the area and its unique terrain. The pilot called the flight service station several times to clarify departure procedures and obtain his flight clearance, displaying a bit of nervousness. Tragically, the band would never make it to their next concert. Just 5 minutes after takeoff, disaster struck. The quiet night and the laughter from the band's conversations were abruptly shattered when the first plane, flying through the darkness, didn't clear the mountains ahead. About 8 nautical miles northeast of Brownfield, the plane's wing clipped the rugged west side of Otay Mountain at an altitude of 3,300 feet. It was so close. Just a couple hundred feet higher, or a small directional shift, and the plane could have cleared the peak. Instead, it struck the mountain's side, breaking apart and cartwheeling as it burst into flames. The impact left a large, blackened area on the mountainside, littered with scattered debris from the crash. Among the wreckage were fragments of the fuselage and one of the Rolls-Royce engines, which remained mostly intact near the crash site. The scattered remains included some personal items, a book called The Book of Balance and Harmony by Thomas Cleary, cans of shaving cream, hairspray, and even a Stevie Ray Vaughan CD, a heartbreaking find as Vaughan had himself died a year earlier in a helicopter crash. The largest piece left was part of the plane's tail, which had been flung about 100 yards from the main impact site and was clearly visible from above. This visible tail section helped a Border Patrol helicopter spot the wreckage at 2:20 a.m. The crash site was rough and difficult to reach, but soon after, Sheriff Sergeant Don Fowler arrived from Brownfield to assess the scene. Firefighters followed closely behind to put out the small fires that remained on the charred mountainside. After the crash, the investigation uncovered a series of tragic miscommunications between pilot Donald Holmes and a flight service station specialist. Holmes was an experienced pilot with 15,000 total flight hours, including 150 in the DH-125 aircraft, but unfortunately unfamiliar with the terrain and regulations specific to the San Diego area. Worse, the co-pilot had accumulated just 1,750 hours of flight experience and executed only 3 takeoffs and landings in a DH-125. Waiting for the passengers to arrive after their performance, Holmes reached out to the FSUS as 3 separate times for guidance. He wanted to ensure a safe departure route that complied with both local regulations and operational guidelines, particularly because they would be flying at night over a mountainous, unlit area. During these conversations, Holmes expressed concern about the upcoming flight, seeking reassurance and clarity on safe altitudes and the procedure for obtaining an IFR clearance once airborne. To save time and streamline departure, the FSS specialist suggested that the flight could take off under VFR and then request an IFR clearance once they were in the air. Visual flight rules allow for takeoff without an IFR clearance, but it would require the pilot to rely on visual navigation until the formal clearance for IFR was granted. Despite this suggestion, Holmes remained cautious about climbing to altitudes where he might enter the San Diego Terminal Control Area, which began at 3,000 feet mean sea level without proper clearance. Holmes, concerned about airspace restrictions, wanted to clarify if staying below 3,000 feet was advisable. The pilot inquired, "So, would it be better if I headed northeast and kept below 3,000 feet?" But this question about altitude led to a fatal misunderstanding. Holmes's reference to 3,000 feet meant mean sea level, aligning with the airspace boundary concerns. However, the FSS specialist misunderstood this as a reference to the altitude above ground level. The difference in interpretation resulted in a significant error. The specialist's response, "That'll be fine," effectively encouraged the pilot to stay below an altitude that would not provide safe clearance over the mountainous terrain ahead. As a result, the plane took off and leveled off at 3,300 feet mean sea level, a height that tragically placed it directly in the path of Otay Mountain, which rose to an elevation of approximately 3,500 feet. The crew, unable to see the mountain in the dark, unknowingly flew at an altitude that left them vulnerable. The NTSB investigation into the crash identified several key causes and contributing factors, including critical gaps in planning and decision-making by the pilot, Donald Holmes, who did not adequately consider the complex topography of the San Diego area or plan the route to ensure safe altitude clearance over the mountainous terrain. His decision to take off without a guaranteed IFR clearance left him with limited navigational guidance. Once airborne, the pilot's failure to maintain a safe altitude led the aircraft toward Otay Mountain without the necessary elevation to clear it. The co-pilot did not adequately monitor the flight's altitude or position, contributing to the crash. Additionally, the flight service station specialist provided limited information about the local terrain, and the flight took place in complete darkness, making visual assessment of the terrain impossible. Both pilots' unfamiliarity with the San Diego area and the co-pilot's limited experience with the DH-125 aircraft further compounded the situation, leading to the tragic outcome. So, after all, for pilots, always double-check your altitude and terrain clearance, because flying blind is only fun in video games. That's the end of our episode today. Thank you for your support and wish you all stay safe up there.